Andrew, skin specialist based down in South Wales. Today's video is going to be comparing our Nimue 1mm microneedling roller with a 2.5mm generic roller that I have bought from an online auction site. Now, before I get into the comparison, I want to just put out there that this isn't brand bashing. There are lots of different rollers available out there. You've got low quality, you've got high quality. I firmly believe that microneedling or derma rollering is something that should be done in a salon, unless you are, of course, using a roller that is specifically designed for home use, which is usually around 0.2 to 0.25 millimeters depth. Ultimately, if you are a professional watching this and you are trained in microneedling, your trainer should provide you with a link to a high quality supplier who can supply you with the correct type of needles for what you are trying to achieve in the skin, whether you're trying to stimulate collagen, whether you're trying to treat scarring or pigmentation or hair loss or stretch marks, for example. Benefits of microneedling then. So first of all, it is a collagen induction therapy. Sometimes you'll see it on price lists for clinics, for example, as collagen stimulation therapy or collagen induction therapy, microneedling or derma rollering. There are pen devices as well, but ultimately the principle is the same. You puncture the skin with fine needles and therefore then the skin thinks it's been injured enough to make more collagen, which will treat then fine lines and wrinkles. It'll actually exfoliate the skin slightly as well. Just encourage new growth, so the skin will look fresher, younger, more dewy and hydrated. It'll actually bring up old pigmentation as well. So if you've got recent acne scarring, for example, like post-inflammatory pigment, it's going to help to treat that as well. If we go deeper, we're going to be able to treat things like stretch marks and potentially hair loss as well. Another benefit is that really low grades of acne can be treated. So if we think about anaerobic or bacteria without oxygen living in that follicle, like your P. acne bacteria, as soon as the needle enters and introduces oxygen into the follicle, it's going to kill any acne bacteria that are present. Now, personally, I don't needle anybody who is over a grade 2 acne, which is like a mild acne, because usually the skin is too inflamed to introduce more inflammation. So we'll get the client on a home care routine first, decrease the amount of acne lesions present, and then microneedle. And that's a good routine to follow because actually by that point they might have some scarring left behind, so we can treat that really, really nicely with the roller. I'm just going to show you then the different needle lengths that we have here. So 0.25 would just be going into the stratum corneum, very superficial, and that would be suitable for home use. And that entire point of doing that at home is just to make your at-home serums and creams and things go a little bit deeper into the skin, so you get more absorption and penetration of those. So that's the only benefit of doing that at home, and that is the only depth I would ever recommend going to at home. Then we have the 0.5, which will stimulate collagen production, and as we can see, that's going part of the way through the epidermis. You're not going to bleed at that depth because you're not going into the dermis. So it's good to know that you've only got to go to 0.5 to actually stimulate collagen, and that would definitely need to be done in a salon environment then. Nimue's length is 1 mil, so we're going all the way through the epidermis, and the only benefit of that over and above the 0.5 is that you can treat slightly heavier scarring, and also you can treat pigmentation because the melanocytes are actually located in that very basal layer of the epidermis. So you're actually going to dampen the melanin synthesis production over the next couple of weeks after treatment. Then we go into 1.5 and we're going into the dermis now. So this would need numbing cream, and you would definitely be bleeding if you are going to that depth. So, like I said before, we only go to 1 mil because we want to keep it as low downtime as possible. We're still going to get results at that level. Going to 1.5 to 2.5 or even 3 mil sometimes are more indicated for the body, for stretch marks, for hair loss, for example. It does require medical supervision. It probably will need numbing cream as well because it can be very uncomfortable. So hopefully that's explained to you then different depths and the advantages of going to different depths and the disadvantages of going to different depths. You know, it is risky as soon as you're breaking the skin going into the bloodstream. Has to be done by a qualified professional. That roller has got to be sterile if you are drawing blood. With Nimue, we sterilise anyway, even though we're not going into the dermis, because at 1 mil, you're at the crossover point between the epidermis and the dermis, so it is known to get a little bit of pinpoint bleeding every now and again, especially with new clients, I find, until the skin becomes more tolerant if you're doing a course of treatments. So let's have a little look at the differences then. So the first thing I want to point out on this Nimue roller, not sure if we can see that there, versus the roller bought online, is the sheer number of needles. I mean, I can't even begin to count. I know that the Nimue one has 192 needles on it. This one obviously has way more. You can see there, it almost looks like a little spiky hedgehog. Now, you may be thinking, well, surely more needles is going to give me more of a result. So something called the fakir effect. So if you think about the people who lie on beds of nails, the reason that they can lie on those beds of nails is because there are loads of needles on them. So basically then the weight distribution over all those needles isn't high enough to actually puncture the skin at all. In fact, you know, the fewer needles you have, the more puncturing you're going to get, and therefore obviously more result. On that note then, the width of the needle is also really important. So can't really show it on camera, but you can see these are tiny, like the width of these is very, very thin and sharp. These are also, you know, they're fairly sharp, but they are, you can see, I mean, I can't measure the width of them in this environment, but you can see that the width of these is much, much wider, and therefore then again, less pressure. It's not going to penetrate the skin as deeply. So even though this is a 2.5 mil roller, which should never be done at home, by the way, it's not actually going to be going to 2.5 mil. There is no way, and I will try and prove that to you in a minute on the back of my glove. The fact the needles are wider as well, you're going to have difficulty penetrating the skin. So say, for example, you put more pressure on, which again isn't recommended because you can cause dragging and then cause actually trauma on the skin and more problems. It's going to hurt more. The reason that we have these 1 mil really fine needles with a Nimue and we actually taper them off at the end, not sure if you can see they actually go to a finer point at the end, that just makes it more comfortable then for the client, but still gives you the result because you're still going to a 1 mil depth. We've proven that this does go to 1 millimeter in the skin. So I suppose when you're, as a professional looking to purchase a roller, the depth that it says on the box isn't necessarily the depth that it's going to go to in the skin. So be really mindful of that. Where I'm saying 0.5 mil or needling with a 1 mil, that is the depth that you want to be going to in the skin rather than the length of the needle. The material of the needles is also really important. They have to be metal. This one happens to be titanium, which is great because obviously it's then surgical grade. Got surgical stainless steel on this one, fab. Obviously, when you're buying from a non-trusted source, you don't know if what is on the box is what it says it is. I've heard many horror stories of people buying rollers online, needles falling out of them, the needles bending, the needles rusting. It's just not something you want to risk with your own face. I personally would never, ever, ever buy a roller online from an authorised source. And also, especially for home use as well, how would you know how to sterilise it? How long for? How many uses, you know, is that manufacturer recommending that it can be used for before it's got to be disposed of? How are you supposed to dispose of it? How often are you supposed to be needling? You know, it's really not something that should be done at home. And if you are a professional and you've been told by your trainer to purchase from a certain auction site, then please, you know, go back and ask that manufacturer all of the questions that I'm asking now. You know, what is the depth that it's actually going to versus the depth of the roller? What is the material? How many uses? What is the width of the needle? How often can it be used? How many times can it be used before it needs to be disposed of, etc.? What part of the body is it designed to be used on? For all we know, this could be designed for body use only. We just don't know, based on the packaging that it came in. The other reason I'm pointing out the material of the needles is that metal needles do in fact work better because they induce an effect in the cell membrane of the skin cell. It's some kind of, not an electrical charge, but as a scientist it's really difficult to explain, but it basically kind of depolarizes the membrane of the skin cell and that produces more of an effect. In America there are a brand of polycarbonate needle devices out there, which is just a loophole. So rather than having a metal device which has to be registered as a medical device then by the FDA, the polycarbonate needles are used to just bypass that law. So you'll find a lot of companies professionally actually needle with polycarbonate needles, but they won't produce the same effect as a metal needle. It just can't happen. So let's just do a little test as to whether this is going to actually penetrate the skin or not. I can't prove the depth it's going to on a video, obviously, but I have indeed put a glove on here. This glove is less than 1 millimetre thick. I'm not sure of the exact thickness of these, but these are like your salon or medical, like surgical grade nitrile gloves here. Now, when I put the Nimue roller over the glove, I'm just going to put enough pressure on just to move it along. I can feel that. I can feel that going through the glove there. It's very, when I've had this done to my face without the glove in the way, it's very prickly kind of hot feeling, if that's the right word to use. Ooh, yeah, I can feel it going through the glove there. I'm only literally putting enough pressure on to move it because that is how much pressure is needed officially. You don't need to be pressing down on this to get it to penetrate. Now I can actually see, I'm not sure if it's going to pick up on camera, a tread mark there where the needles have gone through the material. I'm going to do the same then with the 2.5mm auction site roller. So just moving it along my glove now, so I'm not going over the same place again. And again, I'm just putting enough pressure on just to go through. And I can't feel it. It's not going through the glove. I mean, if I was to press slightly harder, I have sterilised these, by the way. Even pressing slightly harder gives me a similar kind of feeling to what I was feeling before, but nothing in comparison to... And I can even see on the back of the glove here that literally 1 or 2 holes have been made there versus a whole kind of tire tread effect with the Nimue roller there. So the depth it says on the box is not necessarily the depth it goes to on the skin. And that is really important. So in conclusion then, if it's available to the general public anyway, I would stay away from it completely because it either shows that it's just a reputable seller or it is genuine quality product that has managed to accidentally find its way online, you know, through some kind of grey market means. Who's been affected in that supply chain ethically? Leave the needling to the professionals. And if you are a professional and you want to ask me any questions about microneedling, feel free to email me, info@hannahmcandrew.com. With the Nimue roller, obviously we only supply these to our authorised Nimue stockists, but there are plenty of other high quality brands out there with the pen and with the roller that do go to the depth that is said on the tin. And remember, anything over and above a 0.25mm should be done by a professional. Thank you very much for joining me. If you'd like to book a free skin consultation, these can actually be done online now. So you can book that on my website, which is hannahmcandrew.com, if you're a member of the public. And any training inquiries, feel free to email me. Thank you very much, and I hope you found this video useful, and I will see you on another Hannah McAndrew video again soon.